So I want to start in a very Henderson way and immediately try to subvert the entire theme, if you don't mind. I'm going to make an anti-claim to start out that really there's no such thing as a beginning. That actually time and space and everything in it is in constant change, and the only thing we can really rely on is the constant of change itself. So that's a very daunting place to try to start something new, right? To try to make a change in your life. And as Daphne and Batu mentioned with that warm introduction, I'm very interested in politics and literature and history. And so that's where I look for answers and strategies to do that, to try to start something or try to make a change or try to be in make an influence, have an influence in this very constantly changing, very complicated world. So let's start with the past. Let's start with an ancient Greek citizen of the city-state just down the street from us, Ephesus, Heraclitus. Heraclitus famously said that you can never step in the same river twice, because it's not the same river, and it's not the same man who is stepping into it the second time. He's also famous for claiming that you can never be something truly because of the constant changing nature of the world that we live in. Instead, he says that you are always in the process of becoming something, always becoming, never being. That really struck me when I learned this, because what it means to me is that it puts a lot more emphasis on action than on anything we think or feel that we are, right? You are, or you are becoming, what you are doing, right? So how do we make sure that there's an alignment between what we are doing and what we want to be becoming? In order to answer that question, I'll look at another historical figure, another influential thinker in history, although a little bit more controversial this time. A man of action, if you will, a general, a Prussian general from the 18th century, Carl Philipp Gottlieb von Clausewitz. If you've heard of him, then you may also have heard his famous quote that war is simply politics by other means. And that, I think, is a very big, broad idea that we can actually apply to our lives if we think of, instead of war, we think of action, and we think of politics as something more personal, something that we can translate to our own lives. He believed that the result of a misalignment between political goals and strategic or tactical actions is usually the cause of the failure of those goals or actions. And if you follow politics, I think we can all think of a few politicians who could benefit from a lesson from Karl Clausewitz. But I also think that we can benefit from a lesson from Karl. I think that we can try better to align our personal political goals with our day-to-day tactical actions, right? Let's take each of these three levels from Clausewitz's theory and apply it to an individual life. Political goals, maybe we can think of that as personal identity. What do we want to be? Who do we want to be? What do we want to be becoming? What influence do we want to have on the world? Let's take strategy. For Clausewitz, that was military strategy. For us, maybe that's a near-term plan, something we're engaged with right now, like an IB diploma, right? A near-term goal that we're working towards. And the tactical level from Clausewitz, if we think of it from a personal level, maybe that's our day-to-day habits, our actions that we perform each day, right? What are we actually engaged in each moment of the day? So let's use an example. I'll use myself as an example for this. Let's take a personal identity or a role I want to have in the world and let's test it with Clausewitz's theory. I have always thought of myself as, and always wanted to be, a musician. I want to play music. When I was in high school, when I was many of y'all's age, I was a musician. I was becoming a musician, as Heraclitus would say. I practiced the trombone every day. I played with a band. I even had the strategic level of performing and competing with that band. So today, I still want to be a musician, right? But and so my goal for that is I need to align the personal identity with my day-to-day actions in order to actually be becoming a musician. So I picked up the guitar and I downloaded an app and I started practicing regularly, a couple times a week. But anyone who's tried something like this to become a musician knows that sometimes that doesn't last very long. You pick up a new hobby or a new interest or a new personal goal, and it kind of lasts a month or so, right? And sometimes it falls off. Sometimes we get distracted. We lose focus. Well, that's what happened to me, and I think it's because I was not applying Clausewitz's alignment theory. I didn't have a strategic, near-term plan that aligned my personal goal with my day-to-day actions. I didn't have any reason to be accountable. This could be a lot of things. I could have entered a competition. I could have played at an open mic night, or maybe I could just start a band with some friends. And then I have the accountability that way. I have people who rely on me every Saturday to know my part when we go to the drummer's garage and practice together, right? I think that seeing things this way through Clausewitz's strategic theory can help us better to take control of who we want to be and make that thing a reality by aligning our day-to-day actions with it. Now, I put down the guitar. I haven't picked it back up again in a couple months, right? That is a very different river than it was 20 years ago. But that doesn't mean I can't start that at some point soon. I can't try to align my strategy and my actions with the goal of becoming a musician sometime soon, right? But I also have to be realistic. The forces that go back well before me, the amount of resources I have and time I have in a day, it's very limited. And I have to be realistic about what I have the resources to do. Right now, I would say I'm pretty satisfied to continue becoming, as Heraclitus would say, a husband and a father, to continue becoming a teacher. Bart's who's not here, I'm gonna have words with him next fire. To continue becoming a friend, to continue becoming a weightlifter, a person's values for personal fitness, to continue becoming a reader, a scholar, someone who's well-read, to continue becoming a traveler, someone who's a citizen of the world and goes out, sees it, and is a part of it. And also, from time to time, to continue to be becoming a gamer. We all have to be realistic about what we spend our time doing, and therefore are becoming, as Heraclitus would say. So I think this is a very good way for us to remind ourselves how our actions are more important than how we think or feel or what we say we are when we try to define ourselves, right? So I challenge you to do the same. Who do you want to be? What are you doing? Who are you becoming right now?